Support for Donnybrook is provided in part by Design Air Heating and Cooling.
Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it. Unacceptable by any reason.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Well, the weather outside is definitely frightful, and we got a little bit more coming our way tomorrow. So hope everybody's safe. Hope everybody's warm. Take it easy while driving, which people aren't doing, which we will discuss here shortly. So joining us on Donnybrook today is Alvin Reid, sitting in for Charlie Brennan. I guess you figured that one out already. And we have, of course, Bill McClellan from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Wendy Wiese, media veteran.
Hi.
Joe Holleman, also from the Post-Dispatch. And Sarah Fenske in my chair today from St. Louis Magazine. Well, I have lived all over this country, okay? And one of my stops was Lansing, Michigan. I have never been through anything like the last 3 days in St. Louis. It snowed, it iced, it got cold. But why on earth are we still struggling with the weather 3 days after all this had began? Sarah, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on this because let's face it, it was about 6 inches that fell at the airport, more in other places, but that is not a lot of snow. So the fact that we're still socked in, so many people still, driving their cars into snowbanks, can't get them out, something's wrong here. And I will say, as a city resident, we frequently complain the city doesn't plow side streets. It's very hard to navigate snowstorms. You just basically have to count on the sun doing its work after a few days' time. This is not just the city. And what seems to be the common denominator on a lot of these bigger problems that I've heard about is these are roads that the Missouri Department of Transportation is tasked with dealing with. There's been a lot of problems on the highway entrances and exits. That's MoDOT's job. There's also been a lot of problems. I've heard terrible stories about things happening on Lindbergh, some of these bigger thoroughfares. It's their job to clear that. So I don't think we can blame these individual municipalities. I think we've got a problem with the state agency.
I think it's global warming.
No,
we're just not used to any storms anymore. And it's kind of like the city's plan on homelessness, global warming. It'll never get cold. And when it does get cold, suddenly people can't drive because there's snow, there's another homeless crisis.
Well, and that's why, global warming is such an inaccurate and, it's really kind of lacking because global warming actually also does have to do with cold weather too. So, we get lulled into that sense of security, but I also think there is, it's still that sort of post-pandemic. We've talked so many times about the things that don't get through offices as quickly as they should in Jefferson City. This is the same thing. This is an extension of that. It's post-pandemic getting back up to those numbers. I don't know if we ever will. People not being trained. And the other thing that is so unusual for me, and you can send your hate mail to Channel 9, but it snowed, I can't come to work thing is, and I know that makes me sound like get off my lawn lady, but it was just a given that when we were all younger, when it snowed, you just left the house earlier. And so I think it's all just that mentality that, I can't drive, I can't do this, and I can't make it into my shift. And obviously there are really valid excuses if you can't dig your car out if you're on a city street. But it's a systemic, and it does seem sort of like a generational switch.
I wonder how much of it has been. I have not left the city since it has snowed. And the city does the same job it always does, which is to get bigger streets cleared, and side streets are on your own. And there's a reason for that. And when you get into it, you can like it or you can hate it, but you either have an unplowed side street or you have a plowed side street with 4-foot drifts up against everybody's car parked at the curb.
Right.
So I get it. So to me, there wasn't a whole lot of change, though I must say that everybody I know who was driving in the county complained like they never did before. So only from that. But I wonder how much of it is that maybe subconsciously governmental entities realize, people can just work at home. which 20 years ago was not a thing.
That's right.
Now it's like, well, if we don't get to that, there'll be just a bunch of people working from home. And I don't know. I just wonder if that's affected the mindset.
I think that's a good point.
There's the sense that, well, this will melt soon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to stay on the ground forever.
Which is usually St. Louis snow.
Yeah,
2 days
true.
later,
Right,
it's gone.
you can
Right,
count on
right.
it's gone in 2 days. Joe, I think you make a really good point, but I will say, as somebody with young kids, this has been so frustrating. I have had so many friends say to me, I feel like I'm back in the pandemic. Parents are being forced to do online schooling of their kids on Zoom, which we all know doesn't work because this 6 inches of snow is apparently too much to handle. Everybody thinks we can all just work from home. Well, it does not work to work from home when you're a parent. I want to get back to this era that you're talking about where we found a way to dig out.
Yeah.
Get the kids out of our hair at least.
You know that's what it's all about.
It is, I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah, it's all about the education. Right.
And mommy's sanity.
Right, yeah. I ain't gonna make it another day. All right, before we go any further, I charged out the gate a little too fast. I want to point out that we have new art this week from Jane McClellan. You can find more of her work and connect with her on her Facebook page at Jane McClellan. It's very beautiful, very colorful.
Very pretty.
All right. So, St. Louis County Council has decided that we are, I won't say power mad, power hungry, but very powerful because they want the good citizens of St. Louis County to give them the authority to, on a 5-person vote, throw the county executive out, throw some department heads out. Hey, we know better. We represent the county. So, Bill, where are we at? Bill, where are we at on this one?
Well, this reminds me of the French Revolution. I mean, first, they're going to get the King and Marie Antoinette, but basically they're then going to get everybody. I mean, they'll have the street department chief in there and have him guillotined. I mean, the idea that the county council is going to have the power to shoot department heads is just bizarre. I mean, I don't even know how they could begin to conceive that the citizens are going to think, yes, we really want you to take complete control.
Is it page derangement syndrome? I mean, is that what this is? They dislike him so much. And I keep thinking back, like, longingly to the era of Steve Stenger. I'm sorry, I know I do, I swear. No, I really do, I swear. It's like, because here comes Sam Page. We had a chance with Mantovani. That did not work. Sam Page is just the gift that keeps on giving to the news business. I mean, truly. But it was going to be transparency all the way, a new and different, gentle, kindler, whatever era. And I think the dysfunction has never been more so.
Well,
more dysfunctional.
people kind of went to jail.
No, I understand that.
I thought you were going to say.
understand that.
I thought you were going to say Buzz Westphal.
No,
the quiet days of
I
county
understand
council.
that, but he stepped into Steve Stanger's shoes, and that was a bad
Well,
thing.
Wendy, you're like the cab drivers in Moscow who have pictures of Lenin on there.
Looking longingly
Looking longingly.
in the rearview mirror.
Good old days.
I think, as far as a power grab, and certainly that's a concern, but I think what this really speaks to is the county council's, I was going to say dissatisfaction. It's a dislike, a base dislike for Sam Page. And I think that's what's push this legislation. And though I agree with you, then what happens? Then we get rid of everybody, and pretty soon it's the third assistant street director who's, I get that's a concern. But I think what this speaks to is not so much a power-mad council as a really angry council that for the longest time, as Steve Stenger did, Sam Page controlled the council. And now he doesn't. And clearly, he made no efforts to get along with everybody. And now that's come back to haunt him because of elections, which we all know have consequences.
Do you think that the members of the county council actually want this power and that they think that the people would approve this, or are they just making this broad gesture?
I think they wanted to get rid of Sam Page.
Yeah.
Do
I
I think they
it's
want
that
it?
bad.
They want it because they want to clean house.
They can't
No,
do their
I don't.
jobs.
I
It's
don't.
interesting, though. They have talked on the record about how they feel like department heads don't give them the information that they need and that they have been unresponsive. And I do think they ultimately blame that on Sam Page. Like, they feel like Page is telling the department heads not to cooperate with them. I think they want to, like, get the attention of these department heads, like, hey, you have to worry about us, too. You can't just answer to this one person who's kind of an island with just one supporter on the county council. So I think that might be part of the chess going on here.
Exactly. I think they put the department heads in there because they also blame Sam Page for the fact that these department heads have either not shown up or sort of been sarcastic and flippant in responses to the council. And we have to remember, the council does have a role in running county government, and
That's
they
right.
do deserve answers
And
from
respect.
department heads.
And respect.
But I think this is all focused on Sam Page.
It's like a bad marriage. I mean, if they could have an exorcist or somebody go into the county council and do some therapizing, I think that is what needs to happen.
Yeah, I just think that, once again, the county council is only being short-sighted in that once, let's just say Sam decided he wasn't going to run, and now you have this power. All right, I'm a department head, and I was appointed or got the job, by this guy. Then all of a sudden, he's not there, or she's not there anymore. Whoever steps in or is on the council, and maybe I want to run, well, this department head is going to support the other person, so they've got to go. Not that they've done anything wrong, but he or she was a supporter of the person that I'm trying to replace. That could get out of control really, really fast, I think. Now, one thing that we know was out of control was the city prosecutor's office. While the former prosecutor was there before Gabe Gore. And the audit came back for the state of Missouri, and as we found out that the auditor was not doing her job many days, and she was trying to get her nursing degree, and she wasn't doing her job, and I think we all knew that. But Gabe Gore kind of pushed back in with the recommendations that were kind of presented to him, like, we appreciate the audit, but I don't appreciate that you're kind of, overstepping your bounds. So, Sarah, your thoughts, not on, Kim,
Sure.
but...
We've talked enough about Kim, I guess, over the 5-6 years on this show. But I appreciate that Gabe Gore pushed back a little bit on the state auditor's office with this. And I think the state auditor did a good job on this audit. He seems like a competent, smart person. So nothing against him. But the state is constantly trying to meddle in city business. There is so many attempts to micromanage. And, right now our crime rate is falling, and they still want to take back over our police department. It's just constant. And so I can see for Gabe Gore, who can say, look, I've cleaned up this office. I've only been here about a year and a half. I'm doing really good work. The voters have my back. You want me to institute all these additional controls where I have to follow state procurement policies and things could take twice as long and not be efficient? I think every good manager knows you don't necessarily do well to have an additional boss. So I get where he's coming from. And it's easy to say that, okay, he's a good boss. We could end up with a bad boss again. But for now, we got the good boss. Why don't we enjoy it?
Well, and I think it was, and not to say it was pro-farm is probably not the word, but I appreciate that Gabe Gore seemed to be sticking up for the troops that were there now. But, however, he did open the doors and say, come on in. And I think that one misconception is people think that somehow the state has no say in prosecuting attorneys' offices. Prosecuting attorneys' offices throughout the state were created by state statute, and they enforce state laws. So the idea that they're just some uninterested party butting in, I don't think that's the case. As the courts decided, both the circuit and the appeals on Mike Parsons' appointment of Melissa Smith said, no, the state does have a role in these offices. And, so the idea that it's just someone from the outside coming in, I don't think is completely correct. I think that's a mischaracterization of it. I think it's a party that has a role in the prosecuting attorney's office saying how things should be done. And having covered a number of these audits, they always tell you what was wrong, and then they always give you solutions. It's up to you to put them in or not. And I appreciate that Gabe Gore said, we got this under control.
And
we're good.
And I love that. I do agree with that. And the fact that he is basically saying, all right, we've done the mea culpa, we've done the postmortem, we are going to move on. And there wasn't a lot of, not a lot of histrionics involved. I think that the city of St. Louis is always feeling besieged. So I get that. I mean, I absolutely get that. But they're not an island, as Joe said. There is some state control going on here.
Right, and they do have to appoint a Democrat if it's a Democrat. So
right.
They can't just go bright wild.
And also, in fairness, the reason that this audit began in the first place is the Board of Aldermen asked for all city divisions to be audited, and this was one of it. So we're not saying, like, stay out of our business, but we're saying, do you want to make things needlessly complicated? Like, let us run this.
Yeah, and we don't want to make anything untenable for Gabe Gore.
Right.
We want him to
This
stick
is
around
working right now.
as long as he possibly will.
I agree with you 100%. Meanwhile, in the county, the new prosecutor there is gleefully wanting an audit of what went on in her office under Wesley Bell. And, she had quite a first week. She threw out the charges on the city clerk and said that I'm not a politician, but I'm definitely running for office in 2 years. But I think she's a little too, I don't know. I'm with Sarah, like stay out of our business if possible, but really don't invite him in that quick. Joe, you disagree, don't you?
I disagree with you completely. First of all, I can't understand why anybody would be opposed to any politician saying, please audit my office. That's the transparency we want, isn't it? Now, I try to get it, but they ignore freedom of information requests from the press, or they delay them forever. The idea of saying, come into my office, see where we're at, tell me what the problems are, I'm brand new. I don't see how you look at that as anything other than being not only politically savvy, but smart from a good government point of view. Tell me what's going wrong with this office, and the audit will come out and it'll let us know. And then, if I was taking over anybody else's job, I would like for someone to audit that person so that I don't get saddled with, how come Holleman didn't do anything about this? I want to say, look at the audit. 6 months before that, my predecessor knew about it. I think it's just open air good government to invite the auditors in because they're going to come in anyway. The county council invited them in, and the county council okays the budget for that office. So you might as well say, come on in. Why not?
And it's not only smart, but it seems like Ms. Smith is going to run a different sort of office than Wesley Bell ran. I mean, she is right away coming down that my job is to prosecute people. And, Wesley Bell was all talk about diversion and this and that. And she's talking about how crime is out of control. Astronomical. So she's a different kind of cat on this.
Yeah, all right, I'm going back to what you said. I still think this is a little bit of, we don't like Sam Page, and as a result, we don't like Wesley Bell. So let's, throw a little bit of mud up against the wall, even though I think it's unnecessary. Now, I get it. I'm not against the audit, but I think they will be disappointed in the prosecutor's office if the auditor were to come back and say, like, hey, you don't have any problems.
You and I were talking last week, or the week before last, about Ms. Valenti and how you've got, there are standards and they should be followed.
Yes.
And I think that's sort of what Joe is saying, is that she's trying to establish a new standard. And I think that can only be a positive step moving forward. And as far as the politicizing, what else is new,
Usually when people say that someone else is playing politics, what it means it's a politician that's not on their side is doing what they usually do. They're okay when politics gets played in the other direction. So the idea that things are political, well, it's in the name, politician. So blaming politicians for acting political. But again, I just don't see how saying, let's take an open, fresh look, open the books, see what's going on, why anybody would be opposed to that on any level of government, I just can't fathom.
Okay, what about Wesley Bell? I feel like if I were Wesley Bell, I'd be like, this is not a good time to do an audit. I'm here in D.C. trying to start over. But other than that, I get your point.
Well, let's wait till the audit comes out. We can all discuss it.
Okay, but all right, now, and then, all right, now, politics. The politicians do political things. All of a sudden, if I'm Wesley Bell, I'm kind of thinking like, you know what, whatever. If it was illegal or just really out of control, that's one thing. But I'm kind of thinking like, hey, St. Louis County, right now, you need me a little bit more than, I need you because I am the congressperson. So you might want to think about, hey, saying like, congratulations, Wesley. will you help us out when, we need some help? And
Well, I would hope
Well,
he
and
didn't.
on the other hand, Alvin, if I was Wesley Bell, I'd want this done as soon as possible.
That's right.
I mean, so that if they do have criticisms of it, it'll be out there well before the next election.
yeah, but that comes around in 2 years. So
Right.
And you're representing a district that got rid of Lacey Clay, and then 4 years later got rid of the person who got rid of Lacey Clay. I'm not sure how confident Wesley Bell's feeling about they need me more than I need them. He
Well, I
also
don't know.
needs them to vote for it.
Lacey Clay was there a long time now.
Within 4 years, there have been 3 U.S. representatives. So the idea that that's some lockstep inherited congressional seat, that's gone by the board.
Well, I think if Cori Bush had played her cards a little differently, she'd still be the congresswoman.
But she didn't.
Well, I'm
and
just saying,
she's not.
but I don't think Wesley Bell is going to go down that path.
I don't hear him complaining about the audit either.
Right. Well, that's true. I'm just saying if I'm him, I might be thinking like, hey, y'all need to cool on this firing on Wesley Bell because I am in a position of power now. He was before.
He's probably got more problems with the lawsuits.
I was just going to say the sexual discrimination suit
Right.
coming up at the end of the month might be also something that he's probably concerned about too.
Oh, well, maybe the Trump will pardon him. Well, Mayor Tishaura Jones, the Business Journal reported this week that she took several trips, I guess 64 adding up to 123 days over a certain period of time. I don't know if this is too much, too little, in someplace in the middle. So, Wendy, you think it's a little bit too much in your eyes?
I think it is for me. I think it is in the minds of a lot of people, but I think the circumstances dictate how much of an issue it is going to be to folks. If they think that the city is running splendidly and that they're happy with their trash pickup and their 911 response times and what's going on with the Board of Aldermen, then all of those trips overseas are not going to matter. If they are a bit disgruntled, then they will matter. And, Tishaura Jones Mayor Jones is absolutely dazzling. I mean, she is a dazzling politician. This has been a period of it was to be a period of transformative period. Thank you. And she's going to find out, though, that, transformative is going to meet practical. And I'm not sure how it's going to end up in the spring for her.
I mean, there's been a lot of turmoil at City Hall lately. It feels like it's kind of even escalated in the last couple months. And it's interesting because the Business Journal put this sunshine request in back in October. And it just takes the city so long to fulfill these records requests. So now not only is this story coming out fairly close to the election at a point when voters are thinking, okay, which way am I going to go in March in that primary, which hurts her, but it's also coming at a time when it feels like there's been a number of different damaging stories. So it hurts more. I think if this had come out in September when maybe things felt like they were going decently over there, it wouldn't have hit. But I think it's kind of hitting in a way because people are frustrated. They're a little bit worried about what feels like a number of city departments that just don't seem to be that tightly run. And I think that's the reason this story is getting some traction, not that travel in and of itself, with taxpayers not paying for it. We didn't pay for any of this other than one very cheap trip. Right. It makes the absence something that I think becomes more of a factor.
And the fact that it's by the Business Journal. I mean, the Post-Dispatch, being a daily newspaper, is often looking into the city and criticizing the mayor and the administration for the money they've been giving out and for not having vetted these people they're giving money to. But the Business Journal is a little bit of a different animal, and it represents the business community's thoughts and interests. And when the Business Journal seems to be going after the mayor a little bit, that does not bode well for the mayor as far as getting business support for her reelection.
And things weren't great in September. I mean, they really weren't great. Not great, capital G, in September. Not quite as hot as they have been for the last couple of months.
I think they've gotten worse.
Definitely, without question. But she has a history of unapologetic travel. When she was in the treasurer's office, same thing. And her father was defending her then, too. So, some things just aren't changing.
I think her takeaway from the stories that I think, Joe, you took the lead on so many years ago when she was in the treasurer's office is that that the voters didn't want their money being spent on this travel. And I think this election is going to tell us whether that was
That's
the
right.
right takeaway or whether the takeaway should have been don't travel.
I don't think this one would sink her, but like you said, it's.
Well, I think you put enough things out there, too. And I mean, I think that as Wendy, first of all, I've got to say that Sarah hit on such a point, because a lot of times when you're in a reporter's role, people go, well, why did you wait till now to do the story? I tried to do it 4 months ago. Y'all just delayed and obfuscated and didn't give me the record. So here you have it. They should have hurried the Business Journal this information to get it out before January, and with follow-ups, who knows, make that stretch into February. Elections are March and April, I mean, so not good timing, and there's not going to be a lot of money to throw around because SLDC, that seems to have kind of ground to a halt. So it would have been better in retrospect to have put a rush on the Business Journal's Freedom of Information request. But I think it comes down to what Wendy said, and I saw that Joe Vollmer, an alderman, said, kind of like you, I don't know if it's too much travel or not, but one way to find out is look around and go, well, is everything okay in the city? That's the answer to the question.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't want to say it's much ado about nothing. I will say that I think we did reap some benefit from some of the travel. Maybe not as much as, City Hall wants us to think, because some of it we would have possibly already or gotten anyway. But I think it's a mayor's responsibility to leave the city and see what's going on other places. Now, I'm not saying it was too much. Like I said, I'm back to what I said at the beginning. Is it too much? Is it too little? I don't know. I'm sure there's mayors that are in troubled cities, small, large, medium size, that travel and don't get into anything. So,
really?
Right.
I think that was what was so. That was so. What was so? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. By giving Governor Parson kudos for his 2 St. Louis prosecuting attorney picks, in which he was required to pick Democrats, did the panel fail to remember Parson also gave us Eric Schmidt and Andrew Bailey when left to his own accord? Bill did. That from Karen McKinley. I recently visited the Steamboat Arabia in Kansas City, and the museum was very interesting. Mr. Brennan should go check it out. I think he might be surprised at how interesting it is. That from Diane Madras of Rock Hill. You can write to us at Donnybrook, care of 9 PBS, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. Send us an email to donnybrook@9pbs.org or a tweet to #DonnybrookSTL. You can ring us up on the comment line, 314-512-9094. And of course, you can find us on our podcast, available on major podcast platforms everywhere. Hey, hang around for YouTube or go to YouTube. Donnybrook Last Call is coming up. And I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about Nikki Glazer, her excellent job on the Golden Globes, and a little zoo animal talk. Thank you for hanging out with us. And once again, it's cold outside. It's going to snow a little bit more. Everybody be safe. We'll get through it. Spring will be here before we know it. Have a great night.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9 PBS.